Hey guys, in this video today, I'm going to break down the
Wait,
story of underwater
Foundation News,
horrors
January
and
20th,
see if we can place together the story of what
2086.
might have
Recording
happened
plays
to
back.
the
Over the
overseeing
past
worlds.
2 years,
In this
government
video, I'm
officers
going to probably
have
read
reported
every single book that we ever
a
got and replay
steady
this
decrease
beginning
in our
bit that we
city's
missed. So,
capitalization to meet
I'm going to redo it.
its
Stay
population's
tuned.
needs.
Foundation News, January 20th, 2086.
Over the past 2 years, government officials have reported a steady decrease in our city's capacity to meet its population's needs. Several districts have even suffered life support system failures, sometimes repeatedly and to hazardous degrees. Many officials are saying that they simply do not have the manpower necessary, or that the tasks involved are too numerous and complicated for their current staff. In response, President Kimball has stated their intention to investigate optimization solutions. They then said that, quote, Foundation is in a moment of crisis. However, we will do everything in our power to implement a swift and effective solution.
This is a public service emergency notice from Vice President Kimball. There has been a containment breach in the exotic animals exhibits. All residents are to stay indoors until otherwise notified.
I'm Kimball, though.
This is a public.
So, basically, if you're wondering a lot about the story is different. I had to read it the first ever time, but there's a little snippet of what it actually said. It wasn't very that different. I still feel like there could have been more to it, but here is the story explained video if you hear Captain Sparkles in the background, because I'm watching it. So we begin off with this thing. So panicking voices and a persistent quiet alarm in the background. Exhibits blocks A, C, D, and F are all on the loose. What about B's and E? I don't know. I can't get any information or even a feed into them. Camera feed into them. Oh man, have you sealed the public access doors? I can't. I tried. But something's blocking my commands. The exhibits are already moving into the city. What about this room? The manual lock can hold for a while, but I haven't. So right there kind of makes me think that Tech 1 and Tech 2 had already been downstairs. We never hear of them ever again. Kind of like in Sister Location when we never hear of the technicians ever again. However, Zoo Tech 1 and Zoo Tech 2 are listed in this thing. Any responses from my call's emergency services, we might be locked off. For the love of so we're stranded. Yeah, might as well turn that alarm off in that creature breaks through the door. This makes me think that maybe both technicians might have died during a fatal accident. This story also seems to take place when robots were the only thing to help on the planet. Robots seem to have failed their duties and instead brought us into panic. We also got knocked out for some weird reason, but I think there's a reason behind the reason. It's pretty obvious that we don't know who our main character is. However, we do get a sick note or sound effect coming from a thing when we first started. It actually was by whoever we had as a husband that made the sound. There's also a bunch of other creatures that I didn't mention. One of them can be seen on the screen. But what's interesting mostly is we have a limit on speed. Now, this kind of reminded me a lot of Security Breach. Underwater version of Security Breach. There have been names and listed stuff about these creatures. And I might do an explain video on the mobs that we face or monsters within. There are a couple of them throughout parts 1 through 4. And this might explain a couple of things. But today is just the story explained video, and possibly story explained indeed, but possibly a monster explained video too, to explain what these monsters might have been and who might have had to face them. We do find out a lot about the jellyfish, and it could be more likely I might go back through the game in peaceful mode and see what all the the things are that we have to face.
Where it is safe. Listen to what has happened.
Oh, let's see. What?
Oh, God. Hey, Cat.
Oh, I didn't hear the recording
Don't
back
know
now.
if this is getting through to you, but I hope it is. I've barricaded the apartment best I can, so don't come back. I'm sorry. I had to. There's something outside. I saw it. Eat the Carsons.
The Carsons! No!
Wherever you are, find a place to hide.
I'm underwater.
I don't think doors will do much good if they know where you are. I can hear this thing peeling back the metal plates, so it might not have much
Wait,
time
it sounds like
left. I'm
dinosaurs
sorry.
are roaming the planet.
But I love you. And just make it through this.
Definitely not raptors.
Do your old man proud.
Whoa! A big hint I missed is in that recording you just heard. He said, "Hey Kate, I made it to the apartment," which means our character is not a male, but instead a giant or a female, and trapped inside the thing. Kate Kimball was actually the person in the first recording that I missed out on. So we could be playing as Kate. We don't actually know until the very ending of the game. But throughout the game, I did notice a couple of things that weren't normal. For one, if we're the mayor, what are we doing under the ocean? And for two, what under the ocean has led us to become? A lot of people thought I was crazy. To be like, what the heck? And yeah, I am crazy to think, what the heck? It's very odd that this game goes around ocean-based stuff. But what about if there was another way to see this game unfold? A big thing I missed a lot in the story is that we're being hunted by not one killer thing, but multiple. And it's not my fault that I didn't notice this until later in the video. We're being hunted by an killer thing. I also didn't notice this until later on. But there are other things in the game that were not made or found in the game. Also, there's a lot of deaths, if you notice on my bar. There's something I've been actually noticed more than ever, and I should have saw this come sooner. So, a lot of people might know this soundtrack. And apparently, I knew all about what happened. I also played through this a bunch of times, thinking that I knew everything. Now, there is a creature known as the Lycosaurus. I kind of figured that this all would go into good harm. There were good robots in the story. But the story didn't tell me that there were good robots. So, the good news about this is the fact I had to lure every single thing into the room. Also, not to mention, who is hunting us, and why would they have done it here? The story is quite simple, matter of fact. The next time you want to show yourself, don't. A lot of people thought I was crazy over this, but the story explain video is kind of getting off center. Let's actually head back to the story and tell you what I saw if I would make it in time. So the story takes place underwater, obviously. But why does it take place underwater? A lot of people would probably ask. The story itself makes zero sense, and each and every monster has their way of learning. I played through this at least 6 times without dying. I did it on camera and off camera at the same time. There were things that I found harder as I went through it. For one, on camera, it was very hard to record halfway through this, but each message kind of got me thinking, what happened to the workers and why did they never come back? I'll read you another one in a second. It might take me a minute. Up next, a lot of people probably thought of this to be the weirdest thing yet. I took a screenshot of it to show you kind of what it would look like. But it says, can't believe a machine was able to predict and stop a riot. Really? You're surprised? Don't take a genius to see that all these unemployed techs and machines workers were going to be angry. Besides, that machine, 300 times smarter than we are? Yeah, but it was able to create and find jobs for all of us? Oof, just like that. Suddenly they were employed and went home to fill out the paperwork. Not much left to be angry about when they could afford to buy food again. A borderline hero. Sure, but you got to give Kimball some credit too. If they hadn't listened to Reeves' suggestion and authorized it to take over unemployed services, we see people looting in the streets right now. Fair, it was a big risk, but they made the choice and it paid off. Either way, through Reeves, the best next thing to a miracle. So Worker 1 and Worker 2 have the same exact color line as Tech Engineer, and I didn't screenshot it. But the games itself are starting to sound like everyone's getting happy about Reef. Here's another one from Reef. I'm only here to read the storyline today. I'm not here to explain everything about the story. Ending might seem a little bit bizarre as it relates to a phenomenon game that everyone seems to love the most, named Portal. A lot of you guys like this game, for instance, as it's the most famous game on the planet. You go against Reef once and for all. I said you were playing Portal, but it's like 10 times better. It actually makes sense. Reef is a known robot that's not too smart to be handled, and as us, we have to shut it down. But a lot of people were wondering, probably on your seat wondering, did this really affect anything? Of course, you have limited time to find everything, and you could just shut down all the levers at once, but it actually was terrible, and I didn't know how to play it on without peaceful mode, because I think they turned themselves off. And it took me forever to get all of them off. The thing is, I needed to do it without dying, so I had to put myself in peaceful mode. Okay. But it's not that bad. Okay. So one thing I did hate about this is Kimball is the character we play as. A lot of people probably think I'm playing as a different character. I didn't find out until the very ending that this makes sense. The mayor went missing. No one ever saw her ever again. Everyone else in the lab died because of the fact that nothing worked. And eventually, we all died. I said eventually all died. So, the hardest part, I think, was playing this twice in a row. Because all I had to do was 3, 2, and 1. It took me a while. Oh, wait, maybe in 4. I almost had to do 5. I think I did 5. I think I went to 1 and then all the way up to 5. The thing is, I think what slows you down is the thing is attacking you. But what I did was like a strategy of the making. And there you go. That's how you defeat him. I just showed you guys a little sneak peek of it. After you defeat him, it basically shuts down everything. And I think what I didn't know is you had to go all the way back up. But I'll let you hear his demonic end.
Core temperature stable. Shutting off essential functions. Core temperature critical. No, it's still too hot.
It's too hot. It's too hot. It's too hot. It's too hot. It's too hot.
Wait, did all the pests die too?
For the fun end, press the button and
Oh my
finally
God,
reveal
no!
who you are. Finally, this reveals who I was the whole
die?
entire time. And it actually does say I was VIP
VIP
Kimball.
Kimball.
Meaning, I was Kimball.
Kimball!
But surface, I head out to land, and you can see what really happened to the
We
whole
spent
entire
8
town.
days on
I
land.
wish they'd have
Oh,
seen if we
a
could
spectator
find
mode
it, you
town
can actually
or
fly
anything.
around and see what
Even
happened
a
to
mud
town.
hat.
I did what did
This
No
is
Las
basically what
Vegas.
happened
Oh
to
my
your
God.
town.
Wildlife has been
Nothing
coming
more to
back
everything was in
some
ramble.
through its
And that was
still
the
pretty
end of the
dusty
game.
up here.
What animals we saw are scrounging to certain. Some rats were so hungry that they started eating Higgins' shoes or boots while he was asleep. Still wearing them, they didn't even stop biting when he began to stomping them and screaming. Lost a couple of toes. Come back home a few days earlier because of that. Hopefully he'll keep the rest of his foot. We'll see if we can. So it sounds like from this report that perhaps not everyone was satisfied with finding land. Perhaps the underwater ocean paradise became a nightmare after what happened. Perhaps no one will be safe. This kind of confirms that the ending that we got was the worst that already happened underwater would have been the same above land. The next page frightens me even more. As the page flips, it does say one thing. One thing that will make people feel more uncomfortable is the next page. But I don't know when it's going to be, so give it a second. Make another extension next month. This makes me frightened as if the story is continuing from another standpoint. What really happened to all the workers?